What's up, everybody? Good evening, late evening. Once again, we are cutting a video at the end of the day after having waited for all the smoke to clear so we could step back and see where things stand after day 2 of legal tampering. So, we did another 8-hour stream today. We will do another 8-hour stream tomorrow, which is technically going to be the last 4 hours of legal tampering and then the first 4 hours of actual free agency. Not that that's really going to change anything from our perspective, since all it's going to mean is that the discussed contracts get finalized officially, but technically free agency hasn't even started until tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific. But I will be there from 9 to 5 to cover it, to break it all down, see what happens. And right now, I'm here making this video talking about where things stand after 2 days, after effectively 2 days of free agency. That's the ultimate effect here, right? And people are feeling very different things right now in this fan base. A lot of people are panicking. A lot of people are happy and chill. A lot of people are kind of waiting. So you ask 100 Seahawks fans, you're probably going to get about 30 people that are panicking, 30 people that are happy, 30 people that are just kind of waiting. So I'm not going to say that the entire fan base is losing their mind or the fan base is too passive. I don't think that's true. I think we've got a nice little mix going, and there's nothing wrong with that. So obviously, it's clear why the people who are panicking are panicking. And I think it's also very clear why the people who are chill are chill. And it's also very clear why the people who are just kind of waiting are waiting. Seahawks have not done that much over the first 2 days of free agency. They've retained a couple of their own guys, and they have brought in one small-time free agent, and they have tendered one of their exclusive rights free agents. I imagine a couple more are going to get tendered before the deadline tomorrow. So there will be more action tomorrow, but for now, it's pretty slow. In fact, you could argue that the only team that has had a slower start to free agency is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't feel the need to reiterate the reasons why this doesn't bother me. I already talked about it in some previous videos. I already explained why, as far as I'm concerned, this is not unexpected. I think that as Seahawks fans, we should be pretty much anticipating a free agency period like this. And I think that unlike previous years, having one like this is correct. However, as we get down into it, as we look at all these signings that are popping off left, right, center, everywhere, there is a reality that we need to accept as Seahawks fans, which is this free agency is moving fast. Usually, free agents don't get signed this fast. Usually, contracts don't get finalized this fast, which means a lot of the good guys are going off the board quicker than we expect. And while I didn't expect, and I don't really want this team to go all in, what needs to be done, and the reason why I'm not panicking at all, and I don't think anybody should, is that we still have like a month and a half between now and the start of the draft. We need to get to a place before the draft where we feel liberated to act in our best interests and not having a gun held to our heads thinking we have to do this or else it's a disaster. That is what we need to avoid. And in order to avoid that, we may need to start doing some things that are unlike the things we've done so far. I definitely admit that. Right now, the Seattle Seahawks roster has 3 pretty big holes. Interior offensive line, just in general, interior offensive line, linebacker, inside linebacker, and safety. Interior offensive line, we literally don't have a left guard on the roster. We have a second-year center and a second-year right guard who offered mixed results as rookies in 2023. And that's it. I don't even think we have anybody on futures contracts that are going to offer depth there. And if there are, it's very, very thin. So that's a problem. Linebacker. We literally don't have an inside linebacker on the team unless you count like Patrick O'Connell. That's a problem. And we have one real safety on the team that we can rely on in Julian Love, because Jarek Reed will probably not be ready for the start of the season. And while everyone wants to hype up Kobe Bryant as a safety, we have no idea if he can actually play safety. He's a cornerback who maybe in our dreams can play safety, but in reality, we have no idea. So I'm totally okay with not breaking the bank to address those needs. However, what needs to happen over the next month and a half is that we do enough in those areas so that we feel comfortable going into the draft that we can at least address an array of different things. What I mean by that is you're never going to be able to just draft pure BPA. It's very rare a team is actually in a position to draft pure BPA. The only way to be able to purely draft BPA would be if you either A, have a terrible team with no good players, or you have an amazing team with no holes. Those teams would probably just take BPA pure. But if you are a normal team, a regular team, you probably already have some positions that are filled, and you probably have some positions that obviously need help. And you're always going to be pushed somewhat towards those things, and that's okay. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to, for instance, go into the draft in April thinking to yourself, we have to get a center in the first 100 picks. We have to. Nothing else really matters. Everything else is okay, but we have to get a center. Because the rest of the world is going to know if you're desperate for a center, and the rest of the world is going to act accordingly. It's going to put you in bad situations where you get taken advantage of, and you can't take advantage of others. You don't want to have to go into the draft thinking, we have to draft a safety with our first round pick. You don't want to go into the draft feeling pigeonholed. What you can live with is going into the draft saying, okay, we can survive at some of these positions if we need to, but when our picks come up in the first 4 rounds, let's say it's 4 rounds, hypothetically, we need to address linebacker, interior offensive line, and safety. Doesn't really matter what order we do it in. All the positions need young help. All the positions need cheap labor. All the positions need additional depth, maybe even a starter. But we're not going to feel like, oh, we have to do this right here. No, we can go, okay, these are the options at each pick. Let's pick the best one from this subset. That's what you want. That's the realistic goal. The dream is, of course, to be pure BPA, but very few teams ever get to the point where they can be pure BPA. So understand that that's just kind of the unattainable goal. It's the light blinking at the end of the lake. So you strive towards it. It's like how the Constitution promises everyone life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You pursue it. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you're pursuing it. You pursue the ability to take BPA, but you're relatively unlikely to get it. Just like you are somewhat unlikely to get happiness. So I say all that to basically lay out the ask for the next month and a half. Get to that position. And guess what? That is totally doable right now. The Seahawks still have a good amount of cap space. They haven't done anything to cripple their cap space. They can free up more if they really need to, although I don't think they will. And you can take a look. Like, this is offensive linemen. I just sorted Spotrac by free agent offensive linemen. You can see that a lot of these guys have signed. A lot of guys have signed, but the list of players who haven't is much longer. And obviously, these guys are going to be less desirable. But if you scroll through this whole list here, and you can't find a collection of guys that you think would work for our purposes, you are having tunnel vision. And that's not a good thing to have right now. Like, just off the top of my head, I think Cody Whitehair would be a passable 1-year stopgap option at a guard spot. Kevin Zeitler is still really good. I mean, Connor Williams is probably going to get paid significant dollars by somebody. Apparently, he wants to wait a while before he signs, but Connor Williams is going to be an option out there. He's a pretty good scheme fit. You could maybe go get Glowinski, who's been a pretty good player in this league. He was here, didn't work out because he didn't fit our scheme, but when he fits the scheme, he can be okay. Brian Allen's a pretty good center for the Rams. Mason Cole's been a good center for the Steelers. Phil Haynes even would work as a depth option to give at least the semblance of stability before you go into the draft. Dan Feeney, Vaitai, Dalton Risner. Like, there are options here that will work. They won't work great, but they will work. They will provide what you need for the time being until you're able to address the position in a more long-term sense. By the way, there are technically guys, not guys that I think we're going to get at this point, but guys like Connor Williams that would be long-term addressings of the position. Same thing, I just sorted Spotrac by linebacker. A lot of the linebackers have signed, a lot of the better ones have signed, but there are plenty of guys who haven't. And I'll say it again, if you go through this whole list that I have on screen right now, and you can't find guys that you think would provide assistance to this linebacker core in its current state, then you are not looking hard enough. Devin White is still out there. Eric Kendricks is still out there. Isaiah Simmons. Denzel Perryman is still out there. Sorry, I had to fight to get that one out. Oren Burks is still out there. Some of these guys wouldn't fit. Some of these guys aren't good. I understand that. But you can definitely find guys here that are good enough to work. Maybe only as, like, depth, but they will put you in a more comfortable position before the draft. And I can do it for safety as well. Sort by secondary. A lot of the best ones have signed. There are still plenty of guys out there. We don't need 20 safeties. We don't need 20 interior offensive linemen. We need one safety. We need a couple linebackers, probably one guy who can start, and we need a couple interior offensive linemen. Realistically, we can find that here. I mean, look at how long this list is. If you can't find a few guys in this collection of players that you don't view as being good and worth something on this team, good fits, good value, you are not looking hard enough. You're just not. So there is plenty of time for this team to do things. And that's with free agency moving faster than we expected. So I am looking at this and I'm just going, yeah, a lot of the guys that I liked are gone. But guess what? A lot of the guys who can still help us, who are still going to make this situation better, remain available. And we don't need a billion people. We need a few people. And they're not going to be the best. They're not going to be long-term solutions, but they're going to put you in a position to where you can have another good draft and maybe a really good draft next year, and you're going to be in a great position. Final thing that I want to cover here real quick is, of course, the compensatory game, because that is clearly a high priority for the Seahawks going into this offseason. They are trying to play the compensatory game. Over the Cap has this wonderful section on their website where they project where teams are going to get compensatory picks based off lost free agents. And as you can see, the Seahawks are currently sitting on 4 for Damian Lewis, Jordan Brooks, Colby Parkinson, and Drew Lock. Now, they've lost one from Pharaoh Brown, which is not accounted for yet on this site because they haven't had a chance to update quite yet. However, when Bobby Wagner signs somewhere else, like he probably will in the next few weeks here, we're going to get a pick back from that. That's going to be better than the pick we lose. We're going to lose one of our 6th-round picks, probably the Drew Lock pick. But guess what? We're going to get back a 5th-round pick probably for Bobby. So think about going into next offseason. Like I understand that people are impatient. They want results now. Think about next offseason. Think about the long game for just 1 second here. Think about going into next offseason with relatively clean books because you didn't commit any long-term money this offseason, and you've got extra 4th-round pick, 2 5th-round picks, and a 6th-round pick for the draft. That's pretty good. That's a good setup. Let's find out if this core can work before we completely commit to it. We can find out if it works without breaking the bank. Last thing I want to do before we get out of here, I want to go back to the chart of needs. After today, I think tight end is now basically no need, even though we may sign one. It's not going to be somebody we expect to do anything. I also think defensive end is going to get bumped over to no need because now that we have Miles Adams under contract, I don't think there's room for a fifth guy. So I actually think both those positions go to no need. And here we sit. Here we sit waiting for more clarity. So see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think.